Thank you, Scott. So again, geometry screen is a good place to start in terms of inputs, and you do this by drawing in the left-hand panel here. So we across the top are what floor one is on. So currently on the first floor, the ground floor, and so I'm defaulted to space type equal living. So I'll draw a footprint for a building here, and as I indicated before, we immediately get a sort of defaulted building. I could change the space type here and add a garage, and I'm going to have it partly inserted into the building. So here we have the garage. I could go to the second floor, and again I have living space defaulted, so I'm going to add this. I'm using a shortcut here of not painting the space, but for example, this area over the garage, if I really wanted this to be living space, I can double click for living space in this area, and it's filled in and created. So if I go back to the first floor, and let's say I want some pop-out area on the back of the garage, or the back of the house, I'm sorry, and again, if I want to go up to the second floor, double-click this area, bring that up to be second floor space. If I go down to the foundation level, at the moment, everything is defaulted as slab on grade. Let's say that I'd like some finished basement space here. Actually, I can use my trick of double-clicking to fill that space to be on the foundation level. So now I'm showing slab and finished basement. Perhaps this area behind the garage is a crawl space. So BOP has the capability for these multiple foundation types and is automatically constructing the boundary areas between and will calculate the heat transfer for these different foundation types. If I rotate up to look under the ground plane, I can see the slab, of course, is on grade under the garage, so it's not showing up below the ground plane, but here's the crawl space area and the finished basement area on the back of the house. Okay, so there's another shortcut which you may have noticed that I wasn't always going up to change from one level to another. Didn't necessarily click the buttons. You could use your mouse wheel forward or back to go up and down levels quickly. And again, if the default is what you wanted here, let's say in fact I wanted to go back to a slab, I can put a slab under the whole house like that. Oops. And so there's some shortcuts that you can use in drawing. There's also a scale here that if you need to draw a larger footprint, you can zoom out, you can zoom back in. As you're drawing, a very nice feature is undo and redo, so that you don't have to start over entirely. However, if you did want to start over, you can right-click and clear a level or clear the building. So let's clear the building and start and do another building. Let's say I'm going to make this a little bit larger. And once again, add a garage. And I'll mouse and add, oops, sorry. I didn't want to add a second story. I want to go back to one story. So now I'm on the second level, which is in fact the unfinished attic level. Let's say that I wanted a sort of 1.5-story house with some finished space under the roof. So I'm going to change the roof pitch, make it a steeply pitched roof. And so you see that there are some additional inputs here depending on what level you're on. On the first level, the available input, this is the living area, is the wall height. But on the second level here, I now have various choices about the pitch, which we already changed. We could make it a hip roof instead if one had that style of roof. But I'm going to go back to gable. The specification of a truss or a cantilever type of roof or a rafter versus a cantilever truss. This has to do with the assumptions about if it's a rafter, then things are setting directly on top of the wall. If it's a cantilever truss, then the bottom chord of the truss sits on top of the wall, and it makes a difference in terms of how much vertical space is available for attic insulation. And DOPT actually does a calculation depending on the overall perimeter of the attic, well, that is the part of the perimeter that has eaves, and does a D-rate if you have specified a large depth of insulation to get a significant R value. And if, in fact, you had a low-pitched roof, then there's a D-rate for the fact that, again, depending on whether you have rafters or a cantilever truss, how much the space next down at the top of the wall and inward from there in terms of the effective, the actual thickness and the effective R value. So that was just a little aside about one of the modeling details of the back to drawing. I am now on my second level, and I currently have the unfinished attic, but I'm going to put some finished attic space in here, and I'm not going to take it all the way out to the edge because I'd like to have some ceiling height. And so when I did that, you saw some windows show up here on either of the ends of the building, and in fact I'm going to add quickly a little more space out here and go up to the second floor, and let's see, first I'm going to make that unfinished attic, but then go in and put some finished attic in here like this. And so now we'll see that some windows showed up in that space as well. And so if I right-click on the right-hand panel, the rendering panel, I have some options here. And so one is I could take away the ground plane, and now I see that I have just a slab, no basement. And I can right-click, put the ground plane back. I currently say show the north arrow, and the BOPT has a specification for the orientation of the building, that is the direction that the front of the house faces. That's actually on the option screen. And so that's what would change the direction that the house faces and where this north arrow shows up. So currently on the option screen, under orientation, we have option 1 selected, which is north. Note at the bottom of the screen, which it's always good to read these notes. These are explanatory of what's happening. So this is option is defined as the direction faced by the front of the house. So that has to do with the north arrow. And then on my schedule here, I'm going to also look at, I currently have elected to hide neighbors, and but if I go back to the option screen, And I have an option to specify neighbors at a given distance from the house that I'm modeling. So I'm going to say there's neighbors at 10 feet. And if I now uncheck hide neighbors, BOPT is indicating that it is replicating the current building geometry for neighbors 10 feet away. And this is used for shading calculations for the building that we're simulating. And you can decide whether you want to be seeing the neighbors or not as you look at the rendering. Also, this debug menu is kind of interesting. So I'm going to uncheck show roof and see some of the detail that BOPT is doing based on what I drew in terms of floor plans. So the yellow area is indicating unfinished attic outside of these knee walls, here, here, here. And so then this is the living area that is conditioned space, and on the other side of the knee walls, which BOPT defined, is unconditioned space. And so there's a lot of detail that BOPT is doing automatically here. If you have a building design in mind, rather than doing takeoffs for wall areas and roof areas, again, BOPT is also going to define the appropriate roof areas for this finished attic space. And so all of that, all those area calculations for surfaces facing different directions are done automatically. I'll put the roof back on, and just to illustrate, we can also show the surfaces. So these are all the subsurfaces that were constructed by BOPT and will be defined as inputs for the simulation engine, either DO2 or Energy Plus. So for example, this is a wall surface between the living zone and outdoors, so that's conditioned space. These triangles have to do with the unfinished attic here and here. So that pretty much describes geometry. As I said, one thing is to remember that aside from the undo and redo, right-click is always a good thing to do in BOPT, wherever you are on the screen. In this case, it gives you the option to clear the building and start over.